Today, we're going to talk about something really critical in mental health. What happens when the treatment you're getting for depression might actually be for the wrong condition? We're diving into bipolar disorder and the very real danger of getting misdiagnosed. So, have you ever felt like this? Like you're being treated for depression, but the meds just aren't working? Or maybe worse, they almost feel like they're making things a little bit off, a little strange. If any of that sounds familiar, you're going to want to stick around for this.
Because here's the thing, what seems like the absolute right treatment for one issue can be a seriously harmful approach for another. It's a tough situation where the cure can actually make the real problem a whole lot worse if that initial diagnosis isn't spot on.
Okay, so let's get into it. To really wrap our heads around the problem, we first have to understand the condition itself. We're talking about the bipolar spectrum, and a key thing to know is that it's way more than just one single condition. So, what are we actually looking at here? Well, bipolar disorder isn't just one thing. Think of it as a spectrum of treatable mood disorders. You've got bipolar I and bipolar II, and then there's also cyclothymia, which is where you see mood swings that are less severe, but they stick around for longer. But you know what the most important word on this slide is? Treatable. And that right there gets to the heart of why getting the diagnosis right is so important. This quote says it all, really. Many high-functioning people live successful, stable lives with the right treatment. This is not a life sentence. It is a manageable health condition, but only when it's identified correctly. But getting to that stable life? Well, that brings us to the core problem we're talking about today, the treatment trap. This is where it becomes crystal clear that getting the right diagnosis is absolutely everything. Now check this out, because this slide lays out the problem so clearly. On the left, you've got what an antidepressant is supposed to do for depression, right? It lifts your mood, it boosts your energy. But look at the right side. For someone with undiagnosed bipolar disorder, that very same pill can kick off agitation, irritability, and totally mess with your sleep. What a doctor might just call activation, that initial energy boost, can actually push someone into a very different and much more serious state. And this isn't just some random bad reaction. It's a real thing. It actually has a clinical name, treatment-induced mania. It is a well-known risk, and it just underlines why it is so critical to get a careful diagnosis before starting any antidepressant. So, if that's the trap, how do you get out? How do you find your way forward? Let's talk about the path to stability and what the evidence shows is the gold standard for treating this effectively. It turns out the gold standard is really a two-part approach. They work together like a team. First, you have to get on the right medication. And we're talking about mood stabilizers here. They're the foundation. But that's only half of it. You also need the right support. And that comes from therapy. It's where you get the tools and the strategies to manage everything. So let's just put all the pieces together here. It all starts with knowing that this is a treatable condition. That knowledge empowers you to seek out a correct diagnosis, which is the critical next step. And from there, that correct diagnosis leads to the right approach, that combination of mood stabilizers and therapy. And where does all that lead? To the goal, living a full, stable life. It's all connected. Okay, so that's the what, but what about the how? I mean, finding the right help can feel like the biggest challenge of all. So let's look at a real-world example of what accessible, specialized care can look like. For this, we're going to focus on a service that's available in the state of Georgia. The organization is called Coping and Healing Counseling, or CHC for short, and they're a telehealth therapy practice, which is becoming a really common and effective way to get the kind of specialized help we've been talking about. And when we say accessible, we really mean it. Just look at this number, 159. That is the number of counties in Georgia that CHC serves through telehealth. That means they cover the entire state, every single county. And here's the crucial part. They are set up to handle this exact kind of complex diagnosis. You can see their specialties here. It's not just bipolar disorder. They also specialize in the very conditions it often gets confused with, like depression and anxiety. That is exactly the kind of focused expertise you want to find. All right, let's talk about the money, because that can be a huge barrier for people. This chart makes it really simple. If you're on Medicaid, your copay is zero. Nothing. For a lot of the other big insurance companies, Aetna, Cigna, Blue Cross Blue Shield, you're typically looking at a copay somewhere between $25 and $40 a session. That makes getting professional care actually affordable. So if any of this is hitting home for you, what's the first step? Well, it's actually incredibly simple and totally low pressure. CHC has a free 2-minute screening right on their website. It's just an easy way to start getting some answers without having to make some huge commitment. In the end, it really all comes down to this. If you've been struggling, if you've been looking for answers and stuck with a treatment that just doesn't feel right, clarity is possible. Getting the right diagnosis is the first, most important step on that path to stability. So the question you can ask yourself is, am I really getting the right help for the right condition?